O'clock now, I think. I'm going to call the meeting of the Select Board of October 9th back into order.
Motion to reconvene?
Second.
Yeah, because we motioned to recess.
Okay.
We did. Aye.
Aye.
Wait a minute, Peter? Who was the second?
Melissa.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we are reconvening our conduct, discuss, and consider applicant interviews for retail marijuana host community agreements. 1 p.m. is Bourne Canna LLC, DBA Stories Cannabis, 4 Bourne Bridge Approach, Bourne Adult Use Marijuana Retail Establishment. So, welcome. You have a half hour for your presentation. And following that, the board will ask questions. It's been like 15 to 30 minutes that we've had questions that we've been asking. So, welcome. You may introduce yourselves and begin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Selectman. We are Bourne Canna. My name is Kijana Rose. I am one of the co-founders of Bourne Canna. I'm originally from Boston, a double graduate of Northeastern University, where I got my master's in public health. I founded I&I Rose Garden, which is a cannabis business in Roslindale, a product manufacturing and retail location. And I have been in this industry, the legal part, since it's been legal. I'm going to do a quick round of
Yeah,
sure.
So I know you had handouts. I'm not sure which. We did sort of move our slides around a little bit. In case
okay.
You actually do want these. I see you flipping through, but it might not match. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
We don't have, we have our
we
a
have
big
our
thing.
full,
Oh, okay.
They're all
Right.
there.
You were looking at it, I didn't know if it was a slide.
Maybe not in the right
no,
order.
this is
They're all
my
there.
cheat sheet,
Okay.
Thank you, Val.
my chicken scratch.
I
And
did
if
want-
any of you are going to speak, you have to come up to the microphone to speak, so that it can be, but this is being filmed on our Bourne Community TV.
Understood.
And so, in order for the TV people to hear it and hear the replay, you need to speak in the microphone.
Thank you so much. We're going to do a quick round of team introductions. Tejal.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tejal. I'm a co-founder of Bourne Canna as well. I'm originally from Maryland. I have a master's in public health. My involvement in the cannabis industry began in 2019 when I co-founded Uma Flowers, which is a recreational cannabis dispensary located in Pepperell. I played an integral role in the state application process as well as all the processes within the town to obtain a host community agreement, worked with the planning board to get the special permits and all the approvals we needed to open up for our business. Once we were open, I played a large role in managing operations on a day-to-day basis. And then soon after that, we opened up a sister location, which is also a recreational dispensary in Lunenburg. And then after opening up 2 successful dispensaries, I decided to venture out a little bit, and I co-founded the Stories brand. And so that's where I had involvement in opening up our first Stories Cannabis dispensary in Fall River. And we're proposing to open up a second location in Attleboro. We're currently going through construction right now and the state application process for that. And we're hoping that our third location is here in Bourne. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm Sarah Colomb. Some of you may know me as I am a Bourne native. I'm happy to be a part of this team as the community liaison. I have volunteered throughout my life in the town when it comes to the Eagles right down the street and also the Bourne VFW. I bartended over there. I also have some experience in the cannabis industry as well. I worked 2 years at Jushi in Lakeville. It's a grow facility, and I was the supervisor of the labeling team. And now I'm excited to be a part of this team and move forward. Hopefully, I will be working full-time in their Stories Fall River location up until, fingers crossed, we open in Bourne, and then I will be over here to get the boots running and help co-manage.
Good afternoon to the chair and members of the board. Valerio Romano, the attorney and compliance officer for Bourne Canna. I was a co-author of the ballot initiative that ended cannabis prohibition in Mass. I'm also a lawyer in California, and I have clients there as well, but I live in Mass. I live on the South Shore. I've raised my kids here, but I have opened at least 100 marijuana establishments in Massachusetts as part, as counsel or some sort of advisor. I've been working closely with UMA and Stories throughout all of our openings here. And then also, just because it's sort of relevant, I'm also the chair of the Cohasset Conservation Commission where I live. So I do a lot, I'm very active in municipal work. Every week I'm in front of one board or another, work with police and fire and whatever, opening lots and lots of these. My practice is only cannabis compliance and citing. And so any questions that you may have about the industry as a whole, in addition to ours, I'd be happy to take those as well during the question and answer period. Thank you.
And some members of our team who are not here today, more of our advisory team, are Davis Patel, Yash Patel, and Priyanka Patel. And all of them have a lot of involvement in the other stores, UMA and Stories. And yeah, they bring a really unique expertise to the team. And also, I don't know if you want to speak more to this, Valeria. No, that's okay.
We had divided this up, and I sat down too early. I apologize. So we also, as Tejal mentioned, are within the family, essentially, we've opened a number of these, right? So we've constructed, even really pretty much from the ground up in Lunenburg, and used existing buildings for the other ones. And so we have a full team to do it, right? We have traffic engineers, contractors, architects, me for legal. We've been through planning board, whether, special permit, site plan approval. I've been through it, 100+ times for different companies, and then also as my role in conservation in Cohasset. So if, we're privileged enough to be awarded a host community agreement and be allowed to move through the process, we're going to get open quick. We're fun, as you'll see, we're funded. We got the full team. We got the expertise. So, and we have, a great location as we'll discuss further. So we'll be open really quick, getting jobs and revenue to the town.
And so a little bit more about who we are. Our company name is Bourne Canna, although we hope to do business as Stories Cannabis here in Bourne. The location is 4 Bourne Bridge Approach Road. Our company is majority owned by economic empowerment applicant, aka me. I wanted to speak a little bit to being an economic empowerment applicant here in Massachusetts. So it's a little bit different. You guys might also be familiar with the social equity program. The economic empowerment program, I'm just gonna go EEA from here on out. The EEA program is a little bit different. It was the first program that was established for candidates who wanted to get into the cannabis industry but came from a different socioeconomic background or wouldn't necessarily have the resources to get involved in this industry. It's an incredibly expensive industry to break into. And so the state chose about 100 people that they certified as economic empowerment applicants due to not just our background, like how I grew up and where I grew up, but also the involvement that I've had in the community. My background is, even before I was working in cannabis and doing this kind of work, my background was in community engagement and community development. And so that's always been something that is, a part of just who I am as a person. And it was really exciting to be able to get into this industry, but also really horrifying in many ways because the opportunities are not there. And so when we formed this team and I learned of Bourne's kind of commitment to bringing in social economic and economic empowerment applicants, I was really encouraged by that and really grateful. And really grateful to be able to stand here today and kind of seek this opportunity. And 100% of our ownership team are women, and I don't think you'll find that in many other teams across the state. It's something that I, again, am just really proud to be a part of. Obviously, both Tejal and myself are minority women. And, again, just not an industry where we get to always be the leaders in the room. So this is a really cool opportunity for that reason, too. And the other thing that I wanted to say, I spoke a little bit about my certified economic empowerment. I'm going to stop saying the words. But the other thing that I wanted to say too, why choose us and who we are, there's a lot of experience on this team. There's an incredible amount of experience, different types of experience on this team. It's not just Tejal's incredible background and really Valeria too, they've opened so many stores and understand and have a deep commitment to the regulations and the compliance, but there's also a deep understanding in community engagement and understanding that piece too, because This is a different kind of industry that has existed. Both Tejal and I have backgrounds in public health, which I think also puts us in a unique experience to just understand the impact to communities that a cannabis store will have. And again, there's a lot of retail experience on this team, which I think is really important because the process of opening is not easy. It's really difficult. My first retail license, I actually sold before I could even open it because I ran out of money. So coming into a team where we're fully funded and we know that we have the resources to do it, it's not an easy feat, but it's something that's really important in this process because otherwise you can get wrapped up for years and you can, put yourself in a really dangerous position. And then lastly, again, to kind of speak back to the economic empowerment piece. We are an economic empowerment team, majority owned. There's not many that exist in the state. I think 15 social economic participants that are open and 19 EEA participants, and there were 100 that were chosen. And also there is a benefit to choosing economic empowerment applicants and putting those businesses in your community, not just the fact that it's an amazing thing to do, an amazing way to create equity in this industry, but also there's opportunities for the sale price, up to 1% of the sale price can go back to the town. And there are other benefits as well that I know Valeria will get into later. So yes, I'm gonna kick it over to this extremely experienced team. I'm super excited to get into the nuts of this presentation. I'll leave that there for you. And yes, Sarah.
All right, so I'm just going to touch on, I guess what I really want to bring to light is that we not only want to have a business in this community, we want to give back to the community. We want to work with the community and be a part of it. So just like the other locations that we have already, we do plenty of different community initiatives where we donate to local charities, local groups, and this is something that we would love to bring to the town of Bourne. Whether it's coming to the library and helping the community get educated on cannabis and its medicinal properties, just because I feel like that can be a tough thing where some people don't understand the true effects of it, and there is this taboo around it and the topic. So I think that that would be really helpful, and just also initiating food drives, being a part of the community, and just not just making money here. I think that that's a big thing, is that we're like a family operated business, that we care about the town and the people that we're going to be working around. Something that we've already started is talk with Craig Poirier, who runs Homeless for the Holidays. So we have already pledged to get involved with monetary donations and running food drives and toy drives to help donate to the Homeless for the Holidays. So that's something super exciting. He's a family friend, and I can't wait to hopefully work with him on that. Again, back to me. I have the volunteer genetic trait in my bones, basically, thanks to my family. So I'm so excited that it can kind of come full circle, and not only can I help my community once again, but also do it in kind of a career-based moment, which is really exciting. Some of the benefits that we can bring to the town of Bourne: not only will you guys receive the 3% local option tax from us, again, we're going to be bringing food drives, toy drives. We're going to be showing up to events and fundraisers and helping out with those. We're going to be offering 12 to 20 jobs to the locals in this town. We're going to be bringing work here. And we're also going to be taking cannabis off the black market. We're going to be a responsible operation that you guys can rely on here.
And just to add to what Sarah was saying, this is just a slide that kind of outlines things that we've already done in the past. We've had coat drives. We've collected donations for breast cancer awareness. We've presented at the local library to educate anyone in the community that may have questions about cannabis. We've done an educational seminar at the senior center. So it's like really a large range of things that we try to do to be a part of the community and be a positive impact within the town. The next several slides really talk about each location that I've been a part of in opening, and just and I just want to touch on the experience that it's brought, that brings to the table as well. So as I mentioned, we opened up Stories' first cannabis location in February of this year. Here's some shots of the interior of the shop. and this is just a slide that's highlighting our customer reviews. It's really important for us to have a customer experience that really is around educating our customers on our products and really just giving them time to ask questions. A lot of dispensaries, if you've been to any, sometimes it feels very transactional. It feels like they just want you in and out and on your way. And we really try to hire staff that can take time to help customers build their order and really find what they're looking for. So these reviews kind of speak to that and their experiences that they've had already at the location we have open. We're also planning to open up a second location at Attleboro. Right now, we're going through construction there, and we've secured a host community agreement, and we're working with the state on our state application. And then, again, this just jumps back to when I first got into the industry, which is opening up Uma Flowers in 2021. I've learned a lot from going through this process. As Kajana mentioned, there's a lot of funding that goes into it, a lot of time, and attending these meetings and going through the processes. I've learned a lot, and I can bring that to this process as well. These are interior pictures of our current shop, and yeah, I've just been involved with the state process and working with the town as well, so it's not something new to me. This is our sister location to Uma Flowers. Again, same thing. I was involved with the beginning, securing the host community agreement, opening up, and then also managing operations on a day-to-day basis after we were open. So it's something that I worked closely with as well. And then the next two slides just kind of highlight two letters that we've obtained from Pepperell's town administrator and the police chief. The letter, I don't know if it's easy to read or not, but it basically highlights that they have had no issues with their business in town. We haven't caused a nuisance to the community, and they think that we're a professional operation within the town, so we hope to do the same thing here as well.
So there's probably not a lot I can tell you about the location that you don't already know, right? So 4 Bourne Bridge Approach Road, it's in the overlay district. We have a purchase and sale, so we've locked down the property. It's ours. We want to renovate the 3,100 square feet. We have 31 parking spaces available on site. And we want to keep that sort of that capey look. It's really a cool looking building. It's got sort of this, on the left side, it's got that facade. And it's a great looking building. Here's a site plan that we have so you can see. And of course, we know that we will have to go to the planning board for special permit. They're the special permit granting authority and for site plan approval. So this is sort of conceptual, right? Should we be awarded a host community agreement, we obviously will dig even further into engineering and architecture and submit the plans that would be, appropriate for those different applications, which will be publicly noticed, of course. But this was kind of what we thought might work. One-way traffic in and out with the 31 spaces striped, and the existing floor plan of the building. Under your parking regulations, we need at least 8 spaces. We have 31. So given early on, and as you may be aware, I know this is the first one for Bourne, but there's, a few hundred now cited in the Commonwealth. Early on, we had sort of these horror stories of Leicester and, and Northampton and whatnot, but that's not like that anymore. 31 spaces is plenty of spaces for a cannabis dispensary. If you had, customers really are only in there for 10 minutes. If you had, 30 spaces filled with 10 minutes per customer, you'd be doing a gangbusters business, and of course you'd be getting the local option tax as part of that, and then some additional tax money if you chose economic empowerment or social equity. Do you want to talk about the floor plan?
So this is our proposed floor plan, and I just wanted to kind of walk you through what we're proposing. And again, our floor plan has been designed based off of what we've learned from our previous locations and what makes most sense to have a successful
Use the laser when you talk about it.
Yes. Okay. So where's the laser? Okay. So the customers would enter through this entryway into an entry vestibule. Here, this is where the customer would have their ID checked by the receptionist. We use a scanner, so it would verify that the ID is valid and not expired. Once that all happens, they would get buzzed into the showroom space. So that's right here, the retail space. We would have some display tables, display shelvings where they can look around, see products. Everything would be dummy products, of course, so nothing is real cannabis in any of the retail space. I wanted to point out, we have a designated pop-up area. It's very popular for the vendors we work with to come in and set up a table and kind of promote their products. So we're really excited about this because it just allows for, again, additional education to the products that their brand is selling. So we would have that available for our customers and our vendors. And then we have a queuing area right here, and then they would check. We have a POS counter right here, so they would come here and get checked out, and then we have a second exit vestibule. And this vestibule, it just acts as a security measure because once they walk out, they wouldn't be able to get back in here as well. So we really like that feature because it just is extra secure, and we do that at our other shops as well, and we like that. And then that's the front of the house. Behind the house, we have our fulfillment vault, which is where all of the orders would be packed. And then we have a storage vault that would have our excess products, and then restrooms, storage, manager's office, break room. So pretty standard back of the house as well. So yeah, so that would be what we're proposing for the floor plan. And these are just pictures of the renderings that we would do as well. So a nice polished shop, similar to what we have at our other locations.
And so as we talked about, plenty of parking for the location. We had our traffic engineers, they did an analysis, and based on where it is, the traffic is really projected to have very minimal, if no noticeable impact, given the evolution of cannabis in Massachusetts. Like I said, this is not the early days of Leicester and Northampton anymore. Weekday PM street peak hour, 24/7 in. Saturday peak hour 55. We can look at the comparison between 658 daily on weekdays, 809 vehicle trips. So, and that's thinking optimistically, but a lot of this is really from the ITE data. And as you may be aware, the ITE data isn't really, isn't really what's going to happen in Bourne, right? I mean, it's just the ITE data, but this is what traffic engineers sort of have to go by. So I think you have a sense of what Bourne's like, you have a sense of where the nearby dispensaries are, so we can take all of this with a grain of salt. We kind of know what's going to happen. We wouldn't sort of rely on this for definitive data, but given the location particularly, the volume of traffic that goes by at that location anyway, what we expect, in rough numbers, we don't think we're going to, we think it's a great location. We're not going to add significantly to traffic, particularly in more congested areas. So we're sort of excited to have it there. I think that sort of goes into it. We can certainly, talk further about traffic with any questions. And of course, we'll be getting in front of the planning board for special permit and site plan approval, where traffic is also important. Our security, Tejal touched on it. The security is, some cities and towns don't involve themselves as much in security, and some involve themselves more, and some police chiefs don't want to sign off on your security measures because they don't want to have, they think it gives them some sort of liability. But the idea is that Tejal and Kajana and Sarah, who worked in a cultivation facility, they've been working in these for a long time. And I've opened a whole bunch of these as well. And so we sort of have the ins and outs of security. The customer will arrive outside of the dispensary. The arrival is monitored by security via camera. They'll enter in, Tejal already pointed it out with the pointer. They'll come into sort of the man trap secure vestibule area where they'll have their ID scanned. But the other thing that happens there is the security agent, the person working behind the counter, will take a look at that person, make sure they're not intoxicated. They'll be trained because you have to do responsible vendor training as a cannabis operator in Massachusetts. If that person's under the influence of anything else, they'll be able to sense that and not let them in and sell them cannabis. They'll be trained to make sure that it's responsible. They'll enter the main retail area. They'll go to a sales clerk to review a menu of products and place an order. Now, they may have also ordered already online. I think we use Dutchie. And so if they do that online order, it'll be even quicker. We'll have a designated point of sale for online orders so that you can just get in and out even more quickly, ensuring that 31 spots is way more than enough. And then they'll, as Tejal showed you on our floor plan, there's actually a separate exit, which adds to security, right? So there's no on-site consumption, there's no hanging out, unless they have more questions, right? I mean, it's supposed to be an educational experience. We're not kicking them out the door once they pay, but if they want to discuss with staff, who will all be trained via responsible vendor training and the extra training that Stories does. Go to the next slide. The battery light's flashing.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go. So we've included this one. Okay, we've included financial documents in our application showing that we have sufficient access to capital. What's nice is Maruti, who's going to actually acquire the building for us, is going to build it out and turn over a fit-up dispensary location. And so we've already, and that's in our RFA, our response, the idea that Maruti's going to do this for us. And so basically, as an example, I work with a lot of groups. Well, in Waltham, we have another. We went through special permit, host community agreement, and the town and the city of Waltham gave out 4 special permits. Some of them have already bailed out. We'll be the first one opening, and this is a couple years ago, right? So, out of the hundreds of groups that I've worked with, throughout the Commonwealth since, helping to draft the adult use initiative, and even medical before that, we opened some of the very first medical. It's really rare that you find a team with the expertise, the money, the property under control. Like we will execute, and I'd say, 10, 20% maybe, and it's tough to say, but of the actual applicants that file an application with the Cannabis Control Commission that wind up getting open, it's a fraction. And I mean, it's just given the time, and then that some of them even close, particularly, outside of retail, but also in the last number of years, the price of cannabis has fallen dramatically in Massachusetts, right? So, wholesale used to be $4,500 a pound, and now it's significantly less than that. So a lot of these groups, they'll borrow money early on, and then they accrue interest at 15% for 3 years before they even open, and then they're just playing debt service, and they basically are like struggling the whole time they're open. We have the exact opposite. We have the money sitting there. We've shown it in our financials, and so should we be awarded a host community agreement, which I look at the host community agreement as kind of like a pass to keep applying. Right, so it's like, it's not like the host community agreement is a permit from you, right? It's a pass. Go to our planning board for, in Bourne would be the special permit granting authority. Go to the state with the host community agreement, right? We can't do anything until we have that with the state, and now they're vetting those, which is fairly new too. So if we're awarded a host community agreement, the pass to keep applying, then we're going to take that and we're going to execute on it quickly. And I could say, with some confidence, without knowing with the details of the other groups that are in front of the board and the town, we got to be up there as far as the ability to execute quickly and knowing with certainty that we're going to get open. So I think that's valuable. I don't think I need to belabor this. We wouldn't be here if we weren't in the appropriately zoned location. We've talked about parking. We've talked about the planning board's role. The location, whether this is where the voters wanted it. So there's really not a lot more for me to belabor with that. We're in the overlay district, local permitting. I mean, like I said, we've been through planning boards, zoning boards, on conservation in my town. We actually have, authority over stormwater too. So it's actually, conservation's a pretty big deal in Cohasset. We've done this, countless times. Literally, I could not even count. Sometimes I have a fantasy of filling up all the walls in my office with all the special permits and host community agreements I've gotten, and it would literally be hundreds. So we will execute there too. And we have the team, like I mentioned earlier, of consultants and contractors who will make sure that, we get it done. Compliance, I mean, I'm communicating with the Cannabis Control Commission on a weekly basis or even more. Every single aspect of this. If there's a change with the commission, I'll know because it will have affected one of my existing clients. And recently, as everybody knows, the commission is sort of up, they're in a lot of chaos there, but they still have staff that's diligent and trying their hardest to get these things open, who are committed to it. But one of the things the commission has done, for instance, recently, is every single infraction that one of these operators gets, they get a notice of deficiency from the commission. There is no wiggle room. You can't fix it on site with them. You get a written notice of deficiency, and you have to do a plan of correction. And so, as a team, we've gone through that so many times that we know how to execute, we know how to remain compliant, we know how to work with them. And it's that kind of sort of daily interaction with the state regulators that we bring, whether it's existing operations or, representing a bunch of them, that makes sure that, again, you're going to get open quickly, we're going to be efficient. So that's really our presentation in chief. John, do you want to say anything in closing, or?
I just want to say thank you again, honestly, that we are really excited to be here, really excited at the opportunity to be in this town, and I'm super excited about this team and just the level of expertise and experience that we bring. I would not be back in this game if I wasn't confident about it, and so the level of confidence that this team brings is really comforting for me, and I hope it'll be comforting for you too. And yeah, any questions? We're here and we're ready. I'm sure they'll come up and join for questions too.
All right, thank you. Okay, so, questions. Who would like to start with questions? Melissa, do you have any questions?
You go first this time. It wasn't me first. I'll let somebody else take it first.
One of the things being a seasonal coastal town, what securities would you have in place with retention of employment and that fluctuation of our seasonal community?
Absolutely. I would say that we definitely understand that Bourne is a seasonal town. And, while we understand that, I think that there's a commitment to us to make sure that we're bringing in employees, especially Bourne people who are from this town, on a full-time basis, and understanding that that's a year-round job. And also that with a seasonal kind of influx that happens, that we would be able to add additional kind of part-time employees thereafter. But we do feel really confident that we would be able to support that structure and that we would be able to provide confident employment for the full-time employees.
And what would be the minimum number of employees would you say that you'd be confident to be able to retain?
Somewhere 7 or 8 would be the
Okay.
minimum.
Full-time.
Yeah, full-time. If you look at the operation of a dispensary, right, so even if you have less customers, so you have less point of sales open, you still need security.
Right.
You still need, inventory.
Right.
You still need some people working the point of sale. You still need some, management. Sarah, who's going to be management, in Fall River, and then come over here after she's all trained up on running, another Stories location. So no matter what, even if it's slower, given the fact that it's February, we're still going to be open, and that open, still requires a base staff, and those staff, we're going to hire from Bourne. As part of the host community agreement, we're certainly willing to pledge, local hiring, job fairs, whatever we can to find people in Bourne to fill those positions, and Sarah knows people, so, yep.
So that leads me to a next question of who exactly, will be part of the day-to-day operations for the Bourne.
I can speak to that. So one thing that we really pride ourselves on is being owners, is being the people that are a part of the day-to-day operations. So it would be, whether it be me, Kajana, or Sarah, one of us would be there on a daily basis, and then the others would also be involved just as much as well. So.
Yeah, this isn't a Goldman Sachs team who's just gonna, come in and get a license and then hire people. These are the operators. You're looking at the team, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just stay up here.
You want me to go around this way so you go last?
Yeah.
Okay, cheat.
Well,
Sit up.
I guess I wanted to, if you could please elaborate on training, what training you're going to be providing besides the state requirements, above.
Yeah. So we generally, for the first chunk of members, staff members, we would have training prior to opening for business. We have set training days that we would go through all the different processes, especially the responsible vendor training that everyone has to go through, all the different background checks. And then we would most likely see if we can even have staff members stop at our previous Stories location and see if we can even do some co-training there as well. So we have different avenues that we could do that, and we would do mock transactions. Everything needs to be set before we open. So all the staff would be trained that way as well.
And then also, types of cannabis, the different forms it comes in, right? So, whether it's flower or an infused product, and then methods of ingestion, right? All our employees, so they can speak, thoughtfully and intelligently to somebody who doesn't necessarily know or has questions and has been using. A lot of people have just been using flower forever, and there's better ways to do it, right? You want to take care of your lungs. You don't want to smoke joints all the time, right? But you still like cannabis, whether it's. And, I like the word adult use. I don't like the word recreational because, unfortunately, Massachusetts has killed the medical market, right? Basically by making medical far more expensive to keep open and required vertical integration. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be catering to people who use this in some sense medicinally, whether it's for sleep or anxiety or otherwise. So being able to talk about, types of cannabis, methods of ingestion, and then also, the different strains and different active ingredients in each kind. That would be some, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks for adding that, Val. I blanked on that. So we also do have an employee training manual that has all the information that Val just mentioned, which would help our employees just be better versed on knowing how to educate our customers when it comes to the different products and the ways that they can use it as well. So that's something that we would have for our employees.
Thank you.
What's that?
For now, yeah.
Peter?
This is a very challenging site because it's on a dead-end street in essence, and when you go around the rotary, you don't know where you are unless you're a local that knows the area well, or if the signage is there, well in advance to explain where it is. And because of it, what is your business plan, or when it comes to marketing plan, to try to generate those sales in there?
Yeah, so marketing is definitely a challenging area within the cannabis space because it's highly regulated by the state. There's only so much we can do. So some of the things that we've done when we first open up is we try to have like a grand opening. We like to invite the town officials, try to get the word out there to locals that we're also opening up, so that way people can know that we're open for business. Something we do is we work with our web developer to also do Google search optimization. So that would allow anyone that's actually searching us in Google for our dispensary to pop up as an open nearby them dispensary. We do a little bit of social media marketing, but again, that's very regulated with what we can actually say and do. And then something that we've recently done, which I think is exciting, is we work with local businesses. So we'll try to do things where we can basically cross promote. So if there's something a local business may want us to advertise in our shop, and then they could do that for us as well at their shop, we're both kind of benefiting from that. So we try to do things like that as well. So.
And of course, we will work with the planning board and within the local zoning bylaw for the sign ordinance. And if we can place signs elsewhere in town, which is certainly something me and my other clients have tried to do, we will give people advance notice. And then, it is the Rotary, and particularly during the summer, it does get congestion, right? Our 20 cars an hour or whatever aren't going to necessarily impact that congestion in any meaningful way. But at the same time, when you're slow around that Rotary and you're sometimes even really sitting in traffic, on a Saturday, everybody's going down to their rental, you're going to look up and you're going to see a dispensary and you're going to pop out. And so it's really like, it's a great, in some senses, it's a challenging site, but in some senses, the site actually offers a ton of benefit, given the fact that, our traffic won't be impactful. Whereas if you had a more quiet street, adding 30 cars an hour does make a difference, right? And then on top of that, as far as, if some of the goal is to bring revenue via the local option tax, this is a great site to do that because we're going to be, right under, people are going to see it. So anyway, that's sort of, it cuts both ways, but yeah. Yeah, of course.
I know in the summertime, with the congestion, yes, traffic is slower, so actually it'll be safer to get in and out of that intersection over there. But businesses that have been up on the Bourne Bridge approach have not been successful because of the lack of traffic in and out of that street year round. The only one that's really survived over there is the motel, because they have some fixed income in there. And then the other side, the vet surgical center. But the other businesses that have been in the area haven't been that successful. So it's going to be a risk reward, if in that sense, you're putting a lot of money out there to get that open. I just hope that.
I would just say that it has to be a really layered approach to making sure that that area stays active. But one thing that's really great about this site also is the opportunity for community engagement and keeping it active that way too. So that's just another kind of layer that we hope to bring in so that it's staying busy and active year round again, because we're excited to be in this community year round.
And the other thing, this is a totally different subject, and I'll be quick. Mental health or abuse use of the cannabis project, cannabis as a whole. I know you talked about as someone, if you have a right to refuse someone if you feel like they're inebriated or gone too far.
Right.
But I'm talking more about the long-term abuse side of it. What are you gonna
Absolutely.
do? What are you gonna do in your establishment to help combat some of the cannabis abuse that does happen?
Yeah, so I spoke to this a little bit earlier, but both Tejal and I'm sorry, were you?
No, okay.
I was saying both Tejal and I have a background in public health. And so having that specific kind of nuance with the community and understanding the impact of, a drug like cannabis and what it's doing in a community has been really important to us throughout our careers. This is part of, what we do and why we've chosen this. And as a direct response, I think a big thing that Stories has really proved in their work, and UMA as well, is education, consumer education, and making sure that people are really educated. And that also means educating our staff and making sure that they're really educated and knowledgeable. One of my bigger backgrounds is in product manufacturing. And so understanding how products in the industry are not just made, but tested, regulated, and how we maintain compliance with the products that we're bringing in. Because as a dispensary, we have an important responsibility to do that. Product manufacturers can send whatever they have. It's the dispensary's responsibility to make sure that they're compliant. And so we have that knowledge, expertise, and care that we will absolutely be bringing to this. So I'm excited about that.
And our consumer education materials will also, speak to, substance abuse and offer, an opportunity for somebody who, maybe overuses cannabis. But the fact is, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to add to that as well. So we would have the consumer educational pamphlets that really allow for, you can pick up and take with you kind of thing, where it explains all the different products we have, the uses, the effects. It even has a little tracker if someone wants to track when they use something and the effects that they're feeling at what time. It has a hotline number for anybody that is actually feeling like they're experiencing cannabis abuse. And the last thing I want to say is we also are required to have a tracking system within our POS that would also allow us to track the daily limit. So the state allows a certain limit, and we would be able to track that to make sure that nobody is coming in and buying more than they're allowed to for the day. So that's, I think, an important point too.
And then finally, sorry, John. No. So Davis Patel, who's part of sort of the advisory team. I remember we've been working together for years, and one of the stories he told me was he was some sort of junior doctor intern sort of and residency in New York, and there were the beds were filled with opioid patients, right? The people who had serious substance abuse problems, and cannabis actually had some relief to that, and so that's something that we're all sort of firm believers in is the fact that cannabis really helps people with, and especially in Massachusetts and here on the Cape in the winter, opioids are a huge concern, right? And so we hope that by doing this responsibly in the larger scale beyond cannabis, we will actually help with a positive impact on drug use.
Thank you.
Okay, my turn. I have a couple questions. In your document that you sent to us in the response to operations at startup or future operation as medical treatment center, You said Bourne Canna welcomes the opportunity to provide discounted cannabis and cannabis-infused products to medical cannabis patients, in addition to serving the adult use population. And I actually had underlined that when I read this, and so I asked some of the other applicants about this, and then it says Bourne Canna would use the proceeds from its adult use operations to subsidize the medical sales. So a couple of the other applicants said that giving discounts to medical patients is not allowed under the regulations, because it's like a targeted thing. Can you address that?
I wrote that. So if you keep reading, it says, I don't have it exactly in front of me.
You go into the medical, go into the vertical integration,
It says,
which is.
so we welcome the opportunity to do that, but we can't, right? And that's sort of, and if you take that section in its totality, yes, although the sort of the enforcement and the interpretation of the rules against discounts and coupons and everything has been so, like, it's just sort of disparate and kind of all over the place, and no one really understands it, not even the commission, as to whether something's a loyalty point or whatever, like it's like all over the place. The point of that section was, look, we want to do that. So it seemed like, Bourne would like its adult use cannabis retailers to also offer medical sales. And what I was trying to say when I wrote that is we would love to do that. And we love to give this, because it's really ultimately 20%. It can be up to 20% less for
It's
a
the
medical patient,
taxes.
right?
The taxes.
Exactly, with the
And
taxes.
frankly,
Yeah.
the regulation as it is, your med card should give you this tax-free
I think it should.
instead of having this whole separate thing. I mean,
It's insane.
I think it's the way it evolved from medical only to this, and then they had their requirements. Some of that regulation update would have been better than some of the update that they did.
I may have censored myself, but sometimes I write about sort of the industry protectionism, right? So some of the early clients I opened, are kind of on the other side of this issue from me. Really, there's some sort of, kind of like small lobbyist industry protection. I spent all this money on getting vertically integrated. I spent $10 million on opening cultivation or more, and now some company's going to come in and just take that percentage of the market from me. And so because there's no common sense reason why the commission hasn't gotten rid of vertical integration. There's no common sense reason why a medical license costs just literally more to renew every year in the tens of thousands of dollars than adult use licenses do. There's no reason for it other than sort of this industry protection. So, we are sort of hoping that will go away, and at that point, and we're also, between, the sister company, we're also looking to open cultivation. We've had a special permit in Athol with another company for quite a while, and we'd love to do that too, but when cannabis is now $1,000 a pound wholesale versus $4,000, you got to drop $14 million into opening 40,000 square feet of flowering space. It's like, does it make any sense? We need the market to adjust in mass, like it did in Colorado, right? Like it does in every emerging jurisdiction. And so once that happens, we'll have a better sense. But that was the point of that, not that we're going to offer.
That's why I asked. I get an explanation. That's why you're here, getting an explanation.
Yeah.
That's why we have these presentations. So I have another question. So I get the sense that you're currently operating 3 places, the UMA places and the Stories place. Are you still operating all 3 of those? And that you're adding Attleboro, and now you're talking about adding Bourne. Do you have any concerns about expanding too much too fast and being able to handle it? That is entrepreneurially one of the things that happens to companies. They expand really fast, and all of a sudden, it becomes a problem.
So there's a couple issues there. One is this rule of 3 in Massachusetts. And so the rule of 3 dictates that there's no individual or entity that can have control, direct or indirect, over more than 3 of any particular license type, right? So Tejal opened up UMA with Priyanka. Tejal and Priyanka kick butt, and they got UMA going really well, and Pepperell works really well, and Lunenburg works really well, but Tejal's a little younger than Priyanka. Tejal's like, well, I'm really good at this. I want to do this too, and so Tejal kind of like, although she was integral in opening, UMA, every day we would talk. all the local licensing, all the staffing, all the operations, all the state licensing. But she's like, okay, I want to do this myself. So she split off from UMA.
Okay.
So when we talk about all the UMA experience and the letter from the police chief and the town administrator, Tejal was a big part of getting all that and making those places successful. But she bailed, and she's like, I mean, not in a negative way, but like, so now it's separate. So now Stories is Fall River.
So
right?
it's
Yeah.
good. Stories is going to be Fall River, Attleboro, and Bourne.
Yes. So it's
Okay.
only Fall River right now. Attleboro's, so we're not in this concern.
Yeah,
of like,
I
getting 5 or
understand, but
6.
those are your that's the
Exactly.
3 that this team is going to.
Yeah, and there's no overlap in control, direct or indirect. And the CCC is very diligent about looking at that, how they do. So yeah, so that's sort of the background and the reason how that works.
Okay. Are you going to talk about the Rotary?
What?
The Rotary?
No, I have something else.
I'm going to ask it. So.
Okay, you ask it.
So when you come, you're leaving the store, right? And you come into that Rotary. And if you're going to go,
If I can
North
interject, maybe
on
put the
25.
site plan up, if you could.
if you're going to go north on, I don't even know if it shows. I don't even think the site plan shows. If you're going to go north on 25, all you have to do is get in that first lane, and it's a really easy cut. If you're going to go over the Bourne Bridge, or if you're going to go, you're. But if you're going to go over to Buzzards Bay and you have to come out of there and you have to cross that Rotary, like 3 lanes of traffic to get to the turnaround, it could be really challenging. And so especially in the summer, you hope that it stops so people will actually stop and let you go. But that is a really challenging Rotary. And so that, if you've tried to do that.
So a couple.
Sarah can talk about that.
Speak on this really quick. So I know that Peter brought up as well, kind of like businesses being up there, and some of them don't last, right? But look at Starbucks, look at PetSmart. If there's a need for it, those people are going to go there. They're going to hate their lives. They're going to sit in that spot until they can get back on the Rotary. They're going to do it. Cannabis dispensaries, same thing. We're going to have this in town, so we're hoping to take all these people that are going from Bourne to Wareham, to Carver, to, everywhere outside of us. We're trying to keep them here, spend their money here. If they have something that's, 10, 15 minutes closer to home, they're going to come here. There's a need for it. They will sit in that spot. I worked at TJ's when TJ's was open, I can attest to that whole location. I hate it just as much as everyone else does. But if you need to go up there, if you want your Starbucks, if you want your joint, you're gonna do it, and that's just a fact. You see people at Starbucks; they sit in those lines. It gets crazy up there. PetSmart's been open as well. It depends. I don't know. I can't really say much for what else is up there, Domino's and stuff. But if there's a need for something, people will go up there. It just depends on what it is, and I think that this dispensary will be one of those spots that people are gonna be like, yeah, I guess I'll sit the extra 5 minutes and wait to hop back on the road.
There's also access from the highway.
Like, yeah, the
I
highway
will
up
also
the hill.
say that if
Highway
you
and up.
looked at some of the Bourne Bridge reconstruction things, they have a lot of plans for making that Rotary less of a nightmare.
Yeah, they do
that
plan to
Rotary
switch it
is
up. I mean, we don't know
definitely
when
a
that will happen. Hopefully,
couple years.
But
Probably simultaneous with
yeah.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, if you want it, you will sit in it, and I can attest to that. So.
Thank you.
And so if you have other failed businesses there too, this is a great option to put something in, right? It's been open, it's been empty for a couple of years now, I think,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's a great, and then on top of that, specifically to answer your question about, traffic and whatnot, we can actually, something that we did in Attleboro, it was a big part of permitting with the zoning board is the special permit granting authority in
Right.
Attleboro. We actually had to, put different signage and, and actually we had to install some different curbing and whatnot to make sure people weren't taking a left out onto Washington Street and whatnot. So we will absolutely work with the planning board, and should there be amendments to the layout of our parking lot or even installing some sort of concrete, whatever, to make sure it's more safe, depending on police, fire, planning board, this board's, input, we're all about it. So we're going to do whatever we can, whether it's, making it impossible or impractical to do some dangerous turn and, mess up traffic even further. So, yeah.
What it is,
Melissa's turn.
yep, I was just following.
I don't know if she has any questions.
Go around again.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
We're
we'll
getting
get-
close to
yeah,
our
we're
time
getting
limit
close,
here.
and I won't be long. One thing we haven't asked anyone, and I'm very much of a tree hugger, we all know that.
You can ask the Green Initiative.
Is I just wanted to just like very quickly, I see that it's in there a couple of times, you talk about the Canada Sustainability and Green Energy Plan. That's one question I haven't asked
That was mine.
anybody. And just maybe
my
talk
last
just a
question.
teeny little bit about it, about maybe your green energy plan and what that means.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, we're just a retailer, right? So throughout construction, we're gonna see about using LEDs, should solar panels or whatnot in our retail facility add value, we will, of course, low flow toilets, all that kind of thing, right? Just in our little footprint, we're gonna do whatever we can to be green. But the bigger implication of this for the cannabis industry, and it's actually one of the great things that the Cannabis Control Commission has done, is they've really incentivized and in some ways made it impossible not to actually operate cultivation and product manufacturing by saving water and power, right? So cultivation, you can only have a certain amount of watts if you're above, 10,000 square feet. You can only have a certain amount of watts per square foot. And so we will engage and we will prioritize wholesale agreements with wholesale partners that actually have that bent towards environmental sustainability. And the Cannabis Control Commission rates them as well, and that information is public. And frankly, if somebody's really putting the effort into it, if they're getting their energy via geothermal as opposed to just off the grid, then that's something they advertise too. So we're going to know that, and we're going to be able to partner and acquire product from companies that are well water, like other forms of electricity, solar, so yeah, so that's sort of our commitment, and that's part of why we put it in there.
Well, thank you. I just wanted a little breakdown on
that
that.
was
I'm
my
sure
question.
somebody wanted to know that out there in
I did.
Wonderland.
Okay.
a
Did
great
you
minds
have
think
another
alike.
question? Peter had another comment.
No, it's just a comment. It's just that Starbucks, Jersey Mike's, Domino's, that front's on the main street, so you have the visibility coming into the rotary or coming down Scenic Highway, where this proposed site is buried behind it. So that's where the challenge is going to be, where you need to get more science and more marketing plan to let people know what's in there. I mean, Sarah worked in that building. We grew up in the village, so we know that area. But some people don't, especially the customer base. It's going to be a challenging site to get the sales in there. So, good luck to you.
Thank you.
You all set?
Yeah.
Last
2
question.
minutes, yeah.
It's a competitive market, right? We know that. But if you can elaborate a little bit more on what you think sets you apart from other cannabis retail, adult use stores? shops?
Okay.
That's a trick question.
Yeah.
Not a trick
I'm just
question.
kidding. Teasing.
Yeah. So I think you're right. It's, there's a lot of competition. And I kind of touched on this earlier. I think something that we really try to do is make our shop an experience where customers can come in and really feel comfortable. Like we try to engage with someone that maybe someone that uses cannabis all the time or someone that's using it for the first time. And we try to make that experience where they're comfortable coming in, asking questions if they want to, and really just not feeling rushed when they're in our shop and getting educated on our products. And so I think that's something that sets us apart. And then we also try to really do things seasonally in terms of we try to host small little events at our shop. So just things that can bring the locals in and just let people know that there's something happening at our shop. I think we really try to engage with local businesses and partner with them as well. So try to do little things like that. During the summertime, we'll do some sort of, bring a food truck out and get some customers that way as well. Yeah, we've done taco food trucks, sandwich food trucks. So all sorts of different things. We try to be creative as possible. And I think also, again, just letting the community know that like we're here, we're a part of the community, and we really want to do whatever we can to be a positive business in the town. I don't know if Kajana wants to add anything.
I will just add one little thing that I will say, especially having the experience that I've had in different dispensaries. For me, it's always about the people. It's always about the people that work there that keep people coming back. And that's why I know we have committed to this town, Sarah, and we're really committed to making sure that the people that work in our store are from here, that their friends are from here, that there's a community feeling in this place because, people always remember how you make them feel. And so that's really important to us. That's a really important part of this brand. And, I feel really confident that that's what will keep people coming back to this location.
So Tejan and Kijana just touched on sort of the sales side of the balance sheet, but but in the competitive, idea, in the fact that it's competitive, there's also the debt side of the balance sheet, and this is where we're going to be extra able to perform and stay performing, right? Because we're not out there borrowing money, at some crazy interest rate. We have the money. We're doing this. We're buying the building. Maruti, the landlord's building the building out. Bourne Canada's getting a building to go in, right? So we're not going to be sitting there with this absurd amount of overhead. We're going to execute right away, and we're going to do it efficiently. So on the sales side, we got a great local team. We got great experience in marketing. We have multiple open dispensaries. But on the debt side, or on the other side of the ledger, we're also going to do this really efficiently. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know about all the other groups that are here, and everybody who's in this. I'm sure everybody has a lot of value and benefit. Like I said, we already have the money. We're not going to take this host community agreement and go shop it and borrow money, right? We're going to get open, and so that's So I think to answer your question, we have both the sales side and the debt side, pretty well laid out for it to be successful.
What you would anticipate as a start if you were awarded an agreement from now until
It's hard to
sales,
speak for the
doors
Cannabis
opening.
Control Commission, but it's an existing building, right? So we're turning a restaurant into a retailer, So a few months of construction, but it's probably a year, I'd love to tell you it's going to be 6 months, but between the different inspections with the Cannabis Control Commission and all of that, but and then construction in winter and everything in Massachusetts on the supply side for construction materials and all that can be tough. But we have the money. We're not going to have like this really constricted budget where we could only have one guy hanging drywall at a time, right? We're going to get people doing the job, and we're going to get it open just really as quickly as anybody could.
And one of the major benefits of being an economic empowerment applicant is that one of the major benefits of being an economic empowerment applicant is that we do have priority within the state. So once we submit our application, we will go straight to the top of the queue, and that will really push us along a lot quicker too. So.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so you were our last interview. We were all exhausted yesterday after doing 3, so probably today. So after this, we have an agenda item to deliberate on process and next steps. So we haven't decided exactly what our process is because we didn't know what we were going to go through and what decisions we were going to be facing. So we will kind of figure all that out. And then the town administrator's office administration will be contacting each of the applicants when we have decided who we are going to be talking to about host community agreements. So you will hear from us when we make a decision. So just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Have a nice afternoon. Thanks for your time.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. So deliberate on process and next steps in negotiating host community agreements. So we all need some time to, I think about our ratings, like, how we're going to grade different people. And then we need to talk about how we want to do this. Do we want to set up our grading scores and have them compiled? Do we want to set up our grading scores and come and sit and talk together so we could talk about the scores to see if anybody's going to offer anything that might have us change our scores? Do we want an opportunity for questions? How do we want to proceed with this?
Well, for the chair.
Yeah.
At a minimum, I definitely want to take some time to go back and watch the recorded videos of the interviews over the last couple of days. Just in case between the videos and the packages that each person provided us, make sure we didn't miss anything. Because we're going to be making a decision on up to 3 licenses, and we're affecting people's livelihoods by doing this. So I want to take the time to make sure that we go through this step by step and make sure that we have defensible answers on why we voted one way or the other. I mean, it's because they put a lot into this, so it's now our job to put our due diligence into it to make sure that we come up with the right decision for this town. And then as part of doing that is I want at least a week, in order to get through this, because we don't know when Bourne TV is going to download these if they haven't already, but, which means we got to get through the weekend, then we got to put our.
They did them live, so
Okay.
they're just gonna edit out, so they should be up like tomorrow, yeah.
So now we're talking Thursday, so.
So, all right, anybody else have thoughts about?
I mean, I agree with Peter. I think, we have tough decisions to make, right? Because we have 6 really amazing proposals, is how I see it. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to make a decision. It's really going to be hard because we've had, it's been great, and it's tough. So, we're going to disappoint 3 people no matter how we look at it.
Right. No,
Sadly.
yeah.
But there's a lot of things to consider. Location, the proposal, there's a lot to think about. So I agree with Peter. I need a little time to make sure I'm making the right decision and doing it fairly, I guess.
I would say, I agree, but I think it would be,
But not
help
stall it
move things
too long,
along
yeah.
if I were to at least do my part with scoring before coming together. And then we can look at how the totals fall. It could be that the top 3 could all be similar, it could be a little off.
We could all be
having
thinking
that-
differently, too.
Right, and then bringing it all together, now
Well,
that we've had a
right,
chance to interview
yeah.
and hear questions.
I
and-
agree. I think we should all give our composite score, our scoring, and then, whether we send them to the town administrator for,
Accumulative and.
compiling the
yeah.
list of, each establishment, what their score was, and then at our next meeting, when we look at them, just to deliberate on, because I'd like to hear everybody's perspective on how they came about to each of the scores, and have some conversation about it.
And I think it's
And then-
important to go
and
to town
then-
council, someone to look over
And that's a good idea.
look over
we-
the fine print of all these
Right,
lease
like, I'm not an
agreements.
attorney or a legal expert, so that is something I was concerned about,
Once we've
too.
whittled it
Thank you.
down.
Right, so if we have our top 3 that we're thinking about, if we decide, so I'm
If
thinking
each of
that,
our scores are listed for each of the companies, and then we can look at, then it generates, right, 1 through 6, right?
at
and then-
what point do you want to have an opportunity to adjust your score based on deliberations, or are we gonna adjust our scores based on deliberations?
I think we should just submit our scores,
Okay.
and then deliberate the reason why, and then our final vote. I might be able to change somebody else's mind because I thought, company A was the strongest, but somebody else didn't, and I would give those reasons why I think that. So in the end, when we do make our recommendations and vote on each one, that's our final.
See how it goes. I mean, it may end up that there's the top 3.
It could end up that
And then-
there's, when you look at the total scores or whatever, and you see that there are significant.
We could end up with 4 that are,
But if we end up with 4, then we're gonna need to have
Well, right.
conversation
Or
and
2 that are
deliberate, or-
higher and 3 that are the same,
Right, yeah.
okay.
We
So,
might have scores
all
that
right,
are the
so
same, and-
The other
Score
thing
it.
to keep in mind is special town meetings coming up on the 21st. So, and then, and what kind of stress we're putting on the staff as it is, because we're getting ready for town meeting, we have this. I want to hear from the town administrator, to see, from her perspective, to see what she thinks her or her staff will be able to help us with this as part of this process, or is this totally on us and we're not going to have staff input or support?
So there will be no staff input on the scoring. Now, let me just remind you what's required.
Okay.
So you're required to post online the scoring for each individual applicant. So
So that's a total score, though, from everyone?
not necessarily a composite. So this is not personnel. So we're not talking about an employee evaluation. So when we had our workshop on August 27th, I pulled out my notes, and the way we proceeded from August 27th is the select board will be sitting as the review team. So you are the 5 reviewers. There will be no preliminary review of any information by the staff prior to the applicant's presentation to the select board. So I didn't review these, we provided
Right.
you no input. So you have their written and you have their verbal presentations. The select board must use the previously adopted grading matrix to determine a numerical score for each applicant. So you are the 5 reviewers, and you have to determine the numerical score for each of the 6 applicants.
So is that individual voted, are the individual scores of the select board members posted online, or the composite scores?
The individual scores. So they'll-
Each select board member will have a score for each applicant?
yes. So, if we put it on a chart, they'll have your 5 names and the 6 company names. And then there has to be a number in each of those cells, a numerical score. So we can compile that if,
That's what, I think that's what
Yes.
Peter was saying.
Yes.
Can we send them
Yes.
to you, and then the staff will
So
compile
once-
the scores?
once
And
you-
you're gonna do the
Publish it.
posting anyway, so.
Yes. So once you have determined your score for each of the 6 applicants, you can send those to me and I will compile
Okay.
that scoring sheet. That's what has to be posted online.
With notes or just the score?
Scores.
The scores.
Okay.
So the second piece, so that's one piece. There's 2 things that are required. The scoring of each individual applicant. So the individual scoring is required to be posted online. Secondly, an explanation in narrative form of reasoning for approval or denial of each application. So at the end of the process, the board has to essentially vote a decision letter. You have to make a determination as a board for each of the 6. And that narrative also has to be posted online.
So, but the narrative is really a compiled narrative. As we meet and discuss the scores, and then say, okay, we had 2 was 75, 3 was 65, whatever we have, and this is how we determine, like, whether is the narrative we have determined that they scored, on, positively on this, and this, or, a drawback. I mean, but those comments, are those deliberated and voted on by the board as a whole?
Yes.
Okay.
It's your reasons. So you have to articulate in writing the reasons for the approval or denial.
Each person for each one has to write a narrative?
The
No.
board as a
As a
group
whole.
has to
As a
vote.
board,
What's a
yeah.
board?
The individual scores,
Okay.
numerical grading
And then we
score.
we write a letter that we all compile from
Yeah,
our
so we'll
points.
meet and we'll
Okay.
say, okay, this is how we scored, and so these are the people that we're offering, and these are the reasons we're offering them each of those. But we'll vote that as a board, so
And
you
you
should
also-
have your own reasons, but,
You have to have reasons for all 6, not
Yeah.
just the ones that are yours.
Yes, and then the denial, and this is why they scored lower or
Yes.
whatever, okay.
Yes.
So we want,
So how long do you want us, how long should we
So
take
people
before we
said that-
submit the scores to the TA? Because she'll submit the scores, and then our
need
next
a
meeting
week,
will
I mean, if
be a
people want a
deliberating.
week to submit the scores, that would be submit by October 16th. The next week after that is town meeting. So we could potentially have a meeting on the 22nd if there's no second night of town meeting, or the 29th is sewer, or sometimes that Melissa may not be here. And so that would mean the next one is November 5th, which is election day, so we're not meeting as a board on that Tuesday night.
I think just my suggestion is this deliberation, you're going to have to treat as a workshop, not
Yeah.
necessarily as part of.
A
So
regular
the
meeting.
22nd, we have the bridge meeting.
Yep,
The 29th, Melissa's out of town.
Not a state.
And then the 5th is the
Election
election,
day.
and then you have a heavy regular agenda. So I think you need to,
on the 12th,
on the 12th.
right.
So I think this is you need to frame it as a workshop where you set aside the time to deliberate.
The 25th, we're doing CWMP,
The
right?
25th, you're doing the CWMP.
Are we meeting on the 29th? No, that may be sewer, but
We can't we're not gonna deliberate unless the whole board's here.
no, that's I'm trying to figure. I'm trying to figure out when she's back.
Gone a week.
Okay.
Hopefully. I don't think I've ever taken the whole week, sadly.
Why don't you set your deadline first for getting the numerical scores to me?
I think a week
Yeah.
should be plenty, right?
The 16th is what you.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
16.
even if you need, if you need a week to do a score, a
No,
numerical
no, the
score.
16th's more than plenty. We got this week, and it's a long weekend.
Yeah,
So submit scores to TA by October 16th?
Yep.
In what kind of format?
So you have to use your grading matrix.
Okay.
That has been voted by you, that's
Yeah.
been given to the applicants, that's been given to the Cape Cod Commission.
Right.
So I need, you can send them to me electronically, or you can put them in an envelope and give them to me, but it has to be on your grading matrix.
And
so
just
the
the
grading,
score?
just the score on the grading matrix.
And that, Liz sent us it electronically.
Yeah, I don't know if the one she sent in Word has the name of a proposer reviewing select
I think
board.
it does.
No, it doesn't, but I wrote it, just wrote
Yeah,
it.
so on your sheet,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
on
yeah.
the ones that we originally got in our packet, it says name of proposer, the
Yeah.
applicant, and then reviewing select
Yeah.
board member, so, because you want to.
Stick it up there.
Okay,
I must be excused, I have an appointment at 2:30.
Okay.
okay.
So the 16th is our date to do our scores.
Yeah, but we still need to set a meeting for, we still need to set a meeting for
Like
when we're
3
going to
minutes.
deliberate this.
Figure this town meeting coming up, right? with everything.
21st.
22nd is the bridge.
22nd in the afternoon, 3
Yep.
o'clock
25th is the CWMP.
at
The
1.
next week's out. You want to do,
CWMP, that's at 3?
the
One.
25th is at 1.
The 25th is at 1.
Oh, I didn't edit the time. Hold on.
Oh, yeah,
We
I
can
have the
be-
same thing too.
Want to do it later that afternoon since we're going to be here?
What date is that?
The 25th, Friday the 25th, are you leaving that day? 1 o'clock is the CWMP.
It's tough.
Want to do it before?
Yeah, either or. 11?
The only other thing I can
That's
say
the
is
day
go
you
to
leave?
November 6th.
That would.
Wednesday the
I'm not gonna be
6th.
here that week, so.
Oh.
Week, yeah.
So we
I'm
have
leaving
2
till
weeks where
after
people are
elections.
not here, and then we're into a whole other week. So there's Veterans Day. So
Yeah,
how about like noon on the 25th?
I'll take it. It's, if everyone else
So it
is.
gives us
Yes,
an
I'm
hour.
okay with that.
Gives us an hour.
And we don't
And
need more
if
than
we
that.
don't finish, we can do our CWMP and finish up after.
Okay, 25th.
25th at noon here.
Let me just edit that one.
we'll shoot for that. So I don't want to delay it too much, so.
I think for the applicant's sake.
Do you want that in the form of motion, or we just do it administratively as chair those to the dates?
We don't need a motion.
No.
We're
Okay.
just setting the dates. The 16th for your score to the TA. And how long will it be after that for you guys to get them compiled?
We'll give it back to you the next day or 2 days later.
Okay,
We
and
only
then
need
post it. You're
a
gonna
day
give
or
it to
two.
us and then post it.
Yes.
You give it to us so we can make sure our scores are right, and then you can post it, right? All right, then.
I gotta get
All right, motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh, is
Oh,
there
so
any
moved.
correspondence?
Second.
No.
There's no correspondence, okay.
So moved.
Motion by Anne Marie, second by Jean. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. 5-0-0.
On to the next.